Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, Opie discovers suspicious messages on their wife's phone, leading to distrust and conflict. Despite reassurances, tensions escalate, culminating in a disturbing discovery of infidelity with two individuals. Heartbroken and seeking solace, he turns to family for support and eventually files for divorce. Despite the painful ordeal, they prioritize their child's well-being and emerge as the more responsible parent. His wife expresses remorse, but the damage is irreparable. Now let's get into the story. One day, I was using my wife's cell phone to take a picture of our baby when I saw a message come in on an adult friend app. I have no idea why she didn't turn off notifications, but I hardly ever touched her phone, so maybe that was why. Needless to say, I freaked out on her. We just had our baby 2 months ago, and she was already trying to find someone else. I told her I thought men were supposed to be the ones cheating on their wives after childbirth, and she didn't appreciate that comment. She swore she wasn't sleeping with anyone, but I refused to speak to her for several days. I didn't help with the baby when she needed me to, only when she could have been the one to do it. I refused to watch our child so she could go out and do God knows what. After 4 days, she was begging me for a break for a few hours. She wanted to go out alone. I told her absolutely not. I said I wasn't stupid. I just found something incriminating on her phone. So why would I agree to let her go anywhere without me? She had no trust from me, so she started keeping me up at night, even though it was the last few days before I had to return to work. She would wake me up every time the baby woke up, even if I didn't get up. She just didn't want me to get any sleep. We were not on good terms, but I felt like I had to watch her. I didn't want our relationship to be over. I was building a life with her, and we just had a baby. This was breaking my heart, but I wasn't even sure if anything happened. She came to me a day later and offered an arrangement. She said there was a nice couple she knew from work before going on maternity leave, and they wanted to come over and hang out. She said if I let them come over, she'd let me sleep and resume all baby duties without complaint. In addition to that, she claimed she never actually cheated on me, so was worried for nothing. I felt pretty defeated, but also relieved I gave in. I slept really well that night and pretty much accepted that I had been worried for nothing. I now know that I was a fool. The next day, I had to work again. My shift was from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. At 6 p.m., my wife's friends came over. She didn't warn me they were on their way, so I felt caught off guard. I wondered if I was prepared to leave my wife and new baby alone with these people. What if my wife cheated on me with one or both of them? They seemed nice enough. The girl was a little nervous to be there, like she suspected she was meeting her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was happy to be at our house, even though I was there scowling at him. He pretended not to notice and mentioned how bummed out he was that I had to leave so soon after they got there. I didn't like him and he knew it, but he didn't care. It was annoying, but I knew I had to go back to work. If I didn't show up on my first day back, I'd probably be fired. My wife swore she didn't do anything, and this was a romantic couple, so I kissed my wife goodbye and left. Driving to work felt weird, so after an hour of work, I felt like a moron. When I pulled my boss aside to tell him what I suspected was going on at home, he told me to take care of whatever I needed to. So I raced home and barged in the front door to find my worst nightmare. All 3 of them were naked in a pile in compromising positions in our living room. Music was playing loudly, the lights were dim, and it reeked of skunk smell. I turned on the lights and got out my phone to take pictures while they yelled and cursed and scrambled to get dressed. This was it. The gratifying and mortifying moment when I caught my wife in the act with 2 people I met face to face. It was partially my fault. I was experiencing this because I agreed to let her have them over and I left them all alone, even after finding the notification on her phone. At least now I had the proof. I craved to officially divorce her. She was so out of it that night that she put her shirt on backward and didn't follow me upstairs. Why? I got some of my stuff and her baby. When I came back down, she started crying and asked me not to leave or take the baby. I couldn't believe this was happening. I told her I just walked in on her cheating on me. At the very least, I needed time at my mom's to think things over. She looked nervous, but like she didn't know how to argue because she knew she was guilty and she wasn't thinking straight. I'm extremely lucky to have my mom. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have her to go to in my time of need. The next morning, my wife called me 50 times. She was hungover and crying. She begged me to forgive her and blamed the couple for convincing her she deserved to party a little. As a new mom, I guess that's persuasive enough to convince someone to cheat. But I know my wife was trying to cheat on me before these people came over. Maybe she met them online or something. But whatever it was didn't matter because I never forgave her. I saw her at the divorce and since then several times for visitation. But when I showed the pictures I had and gave my recount of events, I proved to be the more responsible parent. My wife is ashamed of her actions and regrets what she did every day because she is missing time with her offspring. I hope anyone going through this understands that it's not their fault their spouse cheated. This can happen to anyone, and there are so many people out there in the world. Today's second story. In this story, a couple met through hiking, building a relationship. However, the wife cheats with a friend during a camping trip. Confronted, she and the friend admit guilt. Opie ends the marriage, finding solace in new friendships. The wife faces consequences, living with a friend who eventually ejects her. Despite the betrayal, he moves forward, finding solace in new activities and support from unexpected sources. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I met on a hiking trip. After we were convinced by each of our friends to come along, we instantly knew we wanted to do this more often. As soon as we met, she gave me butterflies. She was outgoing and outdoorsy, confident but anxious about getting close to other people. She told me she had some past boyfriends that broke her trust. Hiking with the same group of people in the spring, summer, or fall was great for her and me. After the first hike, we started going on dates. We got married nearly 3 years later. We were married for 3 years, and during our marriage, we hiked with that same group of friends, which consisted of Clay, his brother, and 3 girls. Working full-time sucked us away for a while. Before we knew it, it had been 3 months since we hiked with our friends in the spring, and if we didn't hurry, we'd miss the whole summer. The last time we went, I noticed my wife talking and laughing with Clay more than she ever had before. Usually, she stuck pretty close to 2 of the girls and me. I'd like to say I didn't pay it any mind, but it bothered me and maybe that's why I avoided hiking for a while. I noticed my wife was texting him, but when I asked why she was, she said I didn't need to be immature or jealous. I told her that was just something she could say to defend herself. Then she told me that Clay was already seeing someone. I didn't think this was true and just seemed like a clever way to get me to leave her alone about it a week after that. So still about 3 months since she started talking to Clay all the time. She said she wanted to go hiking with the crew again that weekend and camp on Friday night. I thought it was awfully convenient for her to bring this up after I told her I had to work this weekend because my boss insisted I specifically had to work Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. She told me it wasn't her idea to go this specific day, but one of the girls since she was moving away the week after and wouldn't be able to hike with us anymore. So then I felt bad and was pressured to allow my wife to go with her and the rest of the group without me. We'd known them for years, so I didn't think she'd run off with Clay, who'd apparently just come out of the closet. So she left Friday just before my shift at work. I got home late, super lonely, and went to work the next morning. I wanted to call her or text, but she didn't have a signal. In the woods, there were a few spots we set up camp before or just off the trail in certain recognizable areas. No service anywhere. I got home Saturday and anxiously waited for her to return. When 7 p.m. rolled around, I was annoyed. They weren't supposed to camp another night. I called Clay and his brother first, but they didn't answer. I called each of the girls and they all answered. They'd all told me the same story, that they got home around 2 p.m. and assumed my wife was going to head home too. But she was still at the site when they left. Also, none of the girls were moving. They could have done this hiking trip on a weekend when I was off. I was getting more disheartened as the night went on. I wondered if she got lost in the woods. Then Clay's brother called me back. He said his brother was home sleeping and my wife stayed behind to camp with one of the girls another night. I told him that lie wouldn't work because I already knew all 3 girls were home. He was speechless for a minute, but then played it off like his memory might have been foggy or maybe the girl changed her mind. He asked me if my wife would camp by herself for a night, and I told him she wouldn't. I demanded and pressured him for the truth, knowing he was trying to hide something. He caved in and admitted she was at their house with Clay in his room. I drove straight to his house. Clay's brother let me in but begged me to go easy on him. I opened the door and found my wife on top of him. I had prepared myself on the car ride over that this was going to be bad, but it was different actually seeing it. They struggled to get off each other quickly. And my wife acted like I was intruding on her special night. I couldn't believe my ears as she said I had no right to hunt her down and just walk in on them. I called her a very insulting name that is usually given to women who sleep around. I told her she was cheating on me, but I felt stupid even having to spell it out for her. I should have every right to prove myself a good man and find her. It means I care, which is than I'd expect from her. It was like she thought I was stupid or wouldn't try to look for her when she didn't return from a camping trip. Then she said Clay convinced her I'd never find out and even got his brother to lie for us. That's when Clay spoke up and said it was her that started coming on to him, even while I was hiking 10 foot behind them. My wife looked at him like she wanted to strangle him. AP apologized to me and said he made a mistake. He wanted to start making it right immediately by telling me the truth. I just asked him to give us some space. He left the room and my wife tried to say nothing even really happened. I knew right then that I didn't want to say another word to her and it wouldn't matter if I did. I wish her luck finding another place to live and left the house. I knew my wife didn't have her car, so AP would probably have to give her a ride somewhere at the least. I just didn't care. I wanted karma to work however it needed to. She started living at Clay's house, but it only lasted a week. He felt bad for what he did to me by taking my wife, and just because she did it with him didn't mean he had to house her. He told me she really planned to stay in the woods with him, but didn't want the police to start searching for them there if I reported her missing. When he kicked her out, I thanked him for it and for trying to make this right. It helped me to realize it wasn't my fault and I could get through it. I found a new group of friends to go fishing with instead of the hikers. I enjoy it a lot because it doesn't remind me of her. It feels like adventure and change. She completely betrayed me, but didn't get to live happily ever after. She lived with one of the hiking girls, the only friend she had left. This girl didn't want her there after a short while and started making life a little harder for her, like eating her groceries and parking behind her car in the driveway instead of on the street. She actually messaged me and told me I dodged a bullet even if I was with her for 6 years. My ex started trying to date again and she hated it so much that she kicked her out after annoying the heck out of her.